It's time for another edition of MetsMusings.
Hi, this is Ron Darling. This is Skip Lockwood.
Hi, I'm Ron Swoboda of the '69 New York Mets, and you're listening to Mets Musings with Gary Mack.
Now it's time for some New York Mets baseball talk. Here's Gary Mack bringing you the latest news and analysis from Mets Nation and the world of baseball on another edition of Mets Musings.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Mets Musings. I'm Gary Mack, and I hope you all had a wonderful, wonderful week out there. The Mets had a great homestand. Perfect in a homestand. 6-0, and they swept the Phillies and the Nationals, both divisional teams, both on the bottom of the division, but those are the guys you got to beat. Yes, you have to beat those teams as well as the top teams. You feed on the small teams, and that's one thing the Mets in the past didn't always do. And also we noticed this year that they're getting teams on the ropes and they're finishing them off, where before they couldn't get that big hit. But the offense has come alive. They've scored 72 runs, or actually, I guess with today's game, it would be 77 runs in their last 8 games or 9 games, which, is great for them, because remember how we used to be so upset when they'd have the bases loaded and nobody out or one out and they couldn't get a run in, and now they're cashing those runs in, and that's a good thing. And why? Why are they doing it this year? Well, maybe it's coaching. Eric Chavez, they're buying into the contact hitting, which we've been yelling about on this show. I've been talking about it for the last few years. If you make contact, anything can happen. And that's what the Mets are doing. They're making contact. They're getting singles, but they're bunching them together. And then you throw in a double. You throw in a triple. You throw in a home run here and there. That's why they're winning. And they're hustling. They hustle down to first base. Every play. Run, run, run. And the defense has been pretty solid. So you put it all together. Even the pitching. Pitching has been, I used Carrasco today. He pitched 5 shutout innings, but he walked 5 guys. It wasn't pretty. But the bottom line is 5 shutout innings. And the same thing last night. Trevor Williams wasn't pretty, wasn't dominating, but a shutout last night. It's just it's amazing to watch them, and like I said, perfect homestand, 6-0. They're buying into Eric Chavez's philosophy as hitting coach to just make contact, and it works, and we know it would work. This bull about an outs and out strikeouts just the same as a fly out. No. It's completely different. And we're seeing that if you make contact, how many games have they come back where they've made contact and the other team's thrown it away? That's why contact's important. That is the reason. Because you force the other team to make the play. And if they make it, your hats are off to them. Then they deserve to win. But if they don't, you have a door open, and then you got to bash your way through it. And that's exactly what this team has been doing so far in this early season. Now, some news on the Mets front. Dom Smith, in a big shocker, was optioned to Syracuse. Now, if you think about it, it's really not a big shocker. He has not been performing, and the front office felt like they needed another arm with the Mets going out to the West Coast, and the injuries starting to mount a little bit now. Nimmo did not play for a few days with a sore wrist. Didn't matter. Canha went in and played a decent center field. Guillorme led off, and he is on fire. You can't get this guy out. Slapping the ball all over the place. Jeff McNeil, he was out a day or two. Didn't matter. They called up a kid, Nick Plummer, and he hits a couple of home runs and a couple of hits, drives in some big runs. It just didn't matter. So, Stan Smith had to go down. They needed an arm for the bullpen, they felt, especially with the trip out to the West Coast now as well. So they brought in Adonis Medina, and Smith was struggling. So, you're not going to get the playing time if you're struggling when other guys are performing ahead of you. It's that simple. It's harsh. It's a harsh business, but that's the way it goes. It's a performance business, and if you don't perform, I'm sorry. You go down. Now, hopefully he finds his stroke, and then we'll see. Either he comes back, or maybe they can move him. The big thing now is, who's the backup to Alonso at first base? Not to worry. Canha has played some first base. Escobar has played some first base. McCann, when he comes back, he has played some first base. There are adequate backups to them. Are they as good as Dom Smith at first base? No. But if they're hitting, and Canha certainly, he goes in to the leadoff spot and goes 4 for 4. Unbelievable. Nido today. 4 for 4. It's a new hero every day, and this team, unfortunately, Smith wasn't hitting, and he went down to Syracuse unhappily, but he's down there. Travis Jankowski is on the 10-day disabled list with a fracture of his left fourth metacarpal bone. He underwent surgery last Friday, and the general timeline for the injury of this nature takes 6 to 8 weeks to recover. Again, they called up Nick Plummer to take his place. He hit his first major league home run to tie the game against the Phillies, and he continued some fine hitting against the Nationals. So, it's been given the Mets. Have had the chance to rest some of these injuries. Nimmo came back today, but he got a good 3-4 days off. McNeil still out. Did he play yesterday, or he's just got some leg issues, tired legs, and you can understand that he's switching between the grass and the infield and going back from left field to second base. So he's probably got some soreness and things like that. But the way Guillorme's playing, they can rest McNeil, and I think he DH'd yesterday because they don't want to lose his bat either. He's got a hot bat. He's been hitting too, making contact. He went back to the way he hit a couple of years ago. It's just all about the contact, and this team has done so well so far, and it's exciting. Are you excited? Are you excited as I am? Let me know. Let me know what your level are. Are you still skeptical about the team because of the pitching? I'm not skeptical that much about this team because the difference I see is the coaching and the management of this team. They're professional coaches there. You can see it, how well these guys know what they're doing. You see Showalter, his head's in this game. And he's got these guys believing. Chavez has got them believing. Make contact. Hafner's got the pitchers believing. And the results are there. They're there. First place. 9.5, 10-game lead, whatever it may be, after tonight's games. Now, this is going to be a tough trip they're on. 10 games out in the West Coast. But we'll see what they're made out of. They're playing the Dodgers. They're going to play the Padres. And then they're going to play the Angels. All contending teams. But we'll have an idea, a better idea of how this team is made up of. But I think it's, I think this team has got something special. And if they can, as I've said before, keep their head above water, keep that big lead, even if it dwindles down a little bit until the guys come back. Tyler McGill threw a bullpen session, through batting practice yesterday. So he, came out of it okay. DeGrom is starting to throw. He hasn't been on a mound yet, but he's throwing and increasing his distance that he's throwing. So those are good signs. Can you imagine in July, or even if it's August, and we get DeGrom and Scherzer back? That's like making the hugest deal that you could make without trading a player. It's gonna who are you gonna cut? That's gonna be the big problem. Who's gonna have to leave the roster with the way this team is playing right now, and with the chemistry that they all have? It's going to be a tough decision, but I'm sure one that they'll face at that time, and maybe other injuries by then. Who knows? But right now, look, folks, just sit back and enjoy it, because it is a long season, and I know we've been here before, but the difference again is Billy Epler, Buck Showalter, and his coaching staff. That, I believe, is the difference than the last previous years. All right. I have to apologize to my good buddy Sean from the UK. He had sent a voicemail last week, and I just forgot about it. So I want to play that for you right now. Sean, take it away.
Hey, Gary. Sean from Bristol, UK. Hope you are well. My friend, really sorry to hear about the passing of your brother. Thoughts and prayers are with you, my friend. Well, so much positiveness to talk about how this team is playing, and one thing that seems to stand out, at long last, the lads are playing small ball baseball and not trying to hit the ball into the next county. These guys are creating runs, and it's just glads your heart, doesn't it? Always been a huge fan of this particular fellow, Gary, and that being Brandon Nimmo. He's becoming an all-round complete player, and the fact that he sprints, and the fact that he sprints to first on a walk, that's commitment. Mack landing on the IL was a huge blow, but this franchise has done their homework during the off-season and spring training with depth of the bullpen. I thought David Peterson answered any criticism during Monday's game in San Francisco. So, question, Gary, are we going to see Mr. Cohen's checkbook being opened in the next few months? And there's a few starting pitchers available at a cost, I think. Anyway, Gary, thank you for all you do. Counting the days until I fly over in September. Take care, my friend.
Okay, and thank you, Sean, for checking in. And, Nimmo's been playing great ball. David Peterson's picked up the slack for DeGrom and Scherzer. Trevor Williams pitched terrifically the other day. So guys are picking up the slack, and that's the main thing. As far as your question, will Mr. Cohen open up his checkbook? He might. The way this team is playing right now, don't rush anything. Don't rush into a trade for a pitcher. Don't rush into signing anybody unless you can get somebody cheap. I discussed this on a Baseball Talk radio show with my good friend Rich Baxter, another show that we do on Sunday morning. You might want to check that out on YouTube, the Baseball Talk radio show. And we discussed maybe the Mets should pick up or consider picking up Dallas Keuchel. He was released by the Chicago White Sox. I believe now he cleared waivers. Do you take a runner on him? Maybe you do. If he's going to be fairly cheap, you give him the minimum. Maybe you give him a try. But right now, I don't think they want to mess with the chemistry. It's so good, and it just everything's hitting on all cylinders. So let's keep our fingers crossed that it can stay that way the whole year. Okay, let's take a quick break because we have not one, not two, but 3 guests this week. Yeah, 3 guests at one time. And it's going to be interesting as we talk about the Mets versus the Dodgers. So stay tuned for that, and I'll be right back.
Baseball and BBQ, your place for interesting baseball talk, opinions, and history.
Baseball and BBQ, your place for barbecue recipes, tips, and interviews from the world of barbecue. If you like baseball and if you like barbecue, then tune in to Baseball and BBQ. Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and BaseballTalkRadio.com.
Wouldn't it be great if you could get a PhD in life through baseball? Welcome to Baseball PhD, a tour company for your brain. 30 major league teams, 100 places to see. Let's touch them all as we make the road trip of a lifetime.
Check out my Facebook group. It's at facebook.com/MetsMusings. Go check it out, and don't forget to call the hotline. It's 516-619-6341. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Mets Musings. I have a whole crew of guests tonight, not just one, not just two, but 3 guys. And these guys all host a great podcast called the Other Boys in Blue. It's a Los Angeles Dodgers podcast, and they're coming to us from the West Coast. Guys, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the podcast.
What's up? My name is Father Fredo. I kind of host our show. You could tell because I'm the annoying one that talks more than anyone else. I'm definitely not an insider like my boys here. Izzy, say what's up to the people.
Hey, Mets fans. Well, thanks for having us. My name is Izzy. Like I said, talk a little less than Fredo. And I guess I pay a little more attention to the baseball world than he does. I have a little more free time on my hands, so I get to watch what goes around the league.
It's fair. It's fair. Izzy brings news to the table. It's like, wait, what? Wait, like,
yeah.
Why do you even know that? Like somewhere in the middle of Mexico, like some player just got noticed, and Izzy's like, this guy right here, we'll go see him in 4 or 5 years. Big Z, introduce yourself. None of your camera's working, bro.
What's up, guys? I'm Big Z. Me and my buddies, Father Fredo and Izzy, we just love the Dodgers. We love talking about them. That's kind of what started this whole thing, and we've been doing it for a couple seasons now. So we're just big Dodger fanatics, and we really appreciate you bringing us on, Gary, to talk some baseball.
It's my pleasure, and it's fun, isn't it? It's fun to do.
Yeah.
Some people get competitive. They don't want to have other podcasts on. I don't care. I'll have other Mets podcasters on. I don't really care. I have a good time, and hopefully people will listen. If they don't. It's their loss.
What it's all about.
That is their loss.
Right. And we were talking a little bit before the video went on about the Mets and the crazy schedule, and you were mentioning about the Dodgers having a crazy schedule too. The Mets just came home from the West Coast. They played Colorado and that other team out there.
San Diego?
The Giants. The Giants. That's who.
That other team. Yeah.
Gross. That's the proper addressing of them. Some gross team that wears this gaudy orange. That's that team. 100%.
I gotta admit, even though they're part of the Mets heritage in a way because they came from New York originally, as did the Dodgers coming from Brooklyn. Those orange uniforms are hideous. They're like
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's how
they
we
are
feel.
just and most of the ones that are those city uniforms or whatever they're calling them are
Oh
pretty
The City
bad.
Connect. Yeah,
they
those are
they
pretty
like
bad,
doubled
too.
down. They like doubled
Yep.
down on the ugliness of their uniforms. Like, what is the ugliest thing we could possibly do? And they
Do
came up with that uniform. It
Yeah.
literally looks like someone just like threw some orange at a white wall and was like, "Here it is. This
look,
is what
that
represents."
looks like the bridge, Golden Gate Bridge, right there. You see it?
Yeah.
I heard it's inspired by Kapler's fake tan. That's the word on the street.
Oh,
Wow.
well, we won't see that at least during the Star Spangled Banner, but that's another story. So the Dodgers are again in first place, and should be a great series with the Mets also in first place. How are the Dodgers doing it? They're continue to get the good pitching. They continue to get the offense, but they just can't beat the Pirates.
It comes down to a team that's sub 500. We have the worst time taking them seriously. It's like we circle certain games, other games it's obvious they're just not taking it seriously. And credit to the Pirates. I think Izzy as well commented on Twitter. We have a Twitter page at The Other Boys in Blue, and we were talking about the fact that the Pirates came to play. They're balling.
They did.
They're hitting well, and they're doing what they need to do. But in terms of the Dodgers being in first place, I think Big Z and Izzy do a great job of touching on guys like Tony Gonsolin, Heaney, Andrews that came up. Big Z, what are you seeing? Why do you think we're in first, dude?
I mean, we just have an all-around great team. I mean, Andrew Friedman, he brings guys in that are kind of cast-offs. So talking about the Heaneys of the world, the Chris Taylors of the world, Justin Turners, these guys have built a foundation of greatness, and that we kind of just grown off of that. And Clayton Kershaw, I can't believe I didn't even talk about him, but another guy is just a captain of the clubhouse. And Mookie Betts, these guys expect to win. And when we don't win and we don't play like that, we don't have that attitude, it's just, you're going to be shipped off. And that's what we just keep doing. But the weird thing is with us, even though we're doing so well and we're tied with the Mets for the best record this season, we still don't think we've actually played to our best ability. Obviously, we've lost 2 of the first 3 against the Pirates, but haven't clicked yet as a team. We haven't 100% pitching, defense, offense. We still haven't clicked in all 3 facets of the game, or 4 with base running. And we're just really excited for us to really finally click. And it is the summer, so I think we're going to start to click and see how good this team is, and really just kind of run up the wins on the rest of the league.
Yeah, and I think we're actually seeing a lot of what you Mets fans are seeing. I mean, there's been quite a few injuries to your starting pitching staff, and the rest of your team's kind of just come up and carried your team. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now. Our 5th and 6th starting pitchers are carrying our team right now, which coming into the season, we didn't expect that. And I think, was it Guillorme? That's your second baseman. He's having a great season right now. And I think your pitchers that you thought were going to be fighting for a rotation spot, I think your guys are doing the same thing ours are, and they're pitching out of their minds, and it's great to see.
It's true, and it's funny because like a game like today, Carrasco pitched 5-inning shutout ball, but he walked 5 guys, and it wasn't a dominating performance. He had bases loaded and 1 out or 2 out a couple of times, and he got out of it, and but they're getting the job done. David Peterson has come up, and after struggling last year, and he's come up this year and really done well in a limited role. Trevor Williams, who the Mets acquired last year from the Cubbies in the Baez deal, he's been pitched. He pitched a good game again last night. He pitched 5-6 innings of shutout ball, and really he was in trouble all the time. It wasn't a dominating. We get so used to seeing DeGrom dominate people and just ground them into the, and we don't even have him. And we're excited like you guys are, because the second half, hopefully, we're going to get Scherzer back healthy, and we're going to get DeGrom back healthy, and McGill back healthy, and those are our 3 top starters right now, and it's going to be like making a huge trade to get those guys back. So we're kind of excited, but we've got to play the games now, and the good thing that the Mets have done is build a big lead, and the division isn't as good. You guys are in a tough division out there in the West. You have the Giants snapping at your heels, and the Padres are there, and the team that what team I like out there, and I think they're a pain in the ass, and they're feisty. Those Diamondbacks.
Yeah,
they play good baseball.
I'll tell you, I was so impressed with them. They came here, and we went out to Arizona. The Mets did, and they were just. I mean, the Mets beat them, I think, 4 out of 6, but they were a pain in the butt. And you guys see them how many times? So they're going to be a problem.
I think we see them 19 times a year. I think as of right now, we've played them 9 or 10 times, and I think we've lost once. This year, or twice.
We lost a series. We lost 2 out of 3.
We lost the first 2, and that was it.
Yeah, and since then we
swept them. Yeah.
So I mean, they may or may not be an issue. Who knows?
But I think a couple of those games were close too, weren't they?
They were close. We had
they're they're a very young team. And they're up and coming guys that are expected to be stars in the next few years. And I think they're kind of blossoming a little earlier than expected. But they're always battling. I mean, they're pretty much at 500. The only reason they're not at 500 or above 500 is because of the Dodgers. But they are playing us well. They are a feisty team, like you said. But I think that gives us an advantage and them. But to play that type of competition so many times a year, because we're always ready for that feistiness and that team to really just challenge us, because they're not afraid of us.
No,
they don't like us. They want to beat us. They want to be who we are. So it's really good for us. But I do think that they are an up and coming team in the next few years. I think they're definitely going to give the Giants and the Padres a run for their money in the division for sure.
Kind of reminds me of Seattle last year.
Yeah. I mean, you couple with that with the fact that it's the same thing we're seeing from the Pirates, right? Like these teams that struggle, these teams that probably aren't going to be playoff bound, these teams that are a few years away in their rebuild. I mean, they come to Dodger Stadium. This is their World Series. That we see it. Right. We see it week in and week out. That's what it really impresses me about the Dodgers' record overall and how consistent they've been. But these teams like the Rockies, like the Diamondbacks, we know that we expect, I think Big Z and I expect the Rockies to make a push at some point this season. But when we're talking about these teams like the Pirates, I mean, they come to Dodger Stadium. These are the most fans they're going to see. This is it for them. These are the games where they're on TV. This is prime time. Everybody wants to watch you beat the Dodgers. You're playing against, I mean, just look at our starting 3, right? Your first 3. We got Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Trey Turner. These are guys that they see in the All-Star games. I mean, these are the kinds of caliber of players that we're bringing out. And so when you're talking about a team like the Diamondbacks, not only are they fired up, just like when they played you guys, you saw that feistiness. They saw a first place team coming to town, or they were going to a first place team. They want to represent well. For a lot of these teams, when you are on top of the mountain, they just take you a little more seriously. This is what they worked up for. This is what they trained for. This is their shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. And you mentioned the top 3 with Mookie Betts, and he's off to a fantastic start this year. Freddie Freeman's off to a good start, and same with the top 3. But what has happened to Cody Bellinger? I mean, this guy was all world, rookie of the year and everything, and he's just like crashing and burning. And he got off to a good start, I think, this year, didn't he?
Yeah. So right now he's injured. But honestly, there were some injuries that took place. He got injured. He hurt that shoulder at first base. We know had some lingering issues. You look at him last year in the playoffs, he led the team in our batting average. And I think the big thing with Cody Bellinger that we keep discussing, he had one of those seasons, his MVP season, where he was just outside of himself. He was doing everything he could do. And really, if you look at that season, it wasn't even for the whole season, right? It was for about like 3 months towards the beginning of the season that he was on a whole different planet. He just couldn't miss the ball. I just don't think that's who he is. And for us on our podcast, at least, I think I speak for the boys and they'll comment right now, we've kind of accepted that. We love his defense. We love him in center field. I want to be able to afford him as well, because the reality is, and one thing we keep revisiting, and a lot of our fans bring this up, In a few years, we're looking at Walker Buehler, Julio Urias, Smith. We're looking at all these guys that are going to be free agents, and a guy like Bellinger as well. We want to be able to afford as many of them as possible. So I don't necessarily mind him batting 225, 250, just with his stellar defense. Because defensively, I mean, as WAR, he's the best center fielder in the game right now. I love to see it. Big Z, I don't know what you think, man.
No, I 100% agree. That's a running theme that we've had on the podcast is we need Bellinger to hit below 250 because we need to be able to afford him. And that's a thing that we have. But it's true. His defensively, I don't know if you share the same opinion as we do, but defensively, he is the best center fielder we believe in the game. Mike Trout would be right there, right below him, but we believe that he's kind of taken that next stride with the experience that he's had out in the field. I mean, just the jumps that he gets on the balls, the path that he takes to the ball it's just bar none. I mean, we're seeing Chris Taylor, who's also, we believe, an above average outfielder. He's taken the place for Cody Bellinger the last few games in the center field, and he's made some great plays. He hit the wall last night. He made an amazing catch, but Cody Bellinger doesn't do that, because he just reads the ball in a different way. And to have that defense, to have that ability to save that many runs throughout the season is very valuable, especially when it comes to the playoffs. So we love Cody. We're okay with him hitting 225, 240. As long as that defense stays stellar, we're okay with it. And then we can keep him long-term as well.
Yeah, and if you look back at his MVP, ultimately, he only won it because of his defense. Because his numbers with Christian Yelich were almost identical offensively.
Right.
His defense was just better than Yelich, and that's ultimately why he deserved it.
Anyone who thinks that he was going to keep that going forever, I mean, there's a handful of guys. There's Betts and there's Trout. And those guys offensively dominate year in and year out. To be in that era, I just think when I say era, like in that rarefied era of just like being that dominant, I just don't think it was realistic. And so when I watch him play, if he's getting one or two hits, one hit a night, I'm more than fine with it, especially come playoff time. He just seems to be a big game guy. When you're talking about his hits against the Braves, when the Dodgers went on their 2020 run, you're talking about him and Lux, Izzy's boy, by the way. That's Izzy's boy. Lux. When you're talking about, I mean, the bottom of our lineup, yes, it is a bummer that, obviously he has had a bit of a fall off since those first couple seasons, but we've talked about on our podcast before. Name me we have, obviously, in our opinion, we have the best first three, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Trey Turner, and then name me a better last three between Cody Bellinger, Chris Taylor, and Gavin Lux. I mean, those guys at the bottom of our lineup, that's disgusting. We're talking about one MVP, last year's All-Star, and an extremely talented, just coming into his own Gavin Lux. I mean, there's really not a downside for me.
Yeah, Gavin Lux has been talked about for the last couple of years as he's been a prospect in the organization. They really couldn't find a place for him to play with Muncy and everything, but Muncy's out hurt now, I believe, right? We won't be seeing him in this series. And Kershaw is hurt as well. Is he still out?
He just threw a bullpen today.
He threw a bullpen today, and he looked pretty good. So he's always trying to ramp up, probably a little quicker than the doctors would like, but he's just a competitor.
Get him healthy for the playoffs, man.
That's right. That's all we care about.
We don't need no dead arms for the playoffs. You know what I mean?
We missed him.
You know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. With two different colored eyes, but I have the same opinion. They keep talking about Scherzer and DeGrom coming back, and I'm like, don't rush him.
Right.
Let them get healthy. Let them get strong. We're winning. We're playing good ball right now. We've got a 10-game lead or 9.5-game lead. It's enough of it's enough. Worry if you start losing and it gets down to 5 games or 4 games,
Even in the division you're playing, I mean, if those teams started to heat up, then you should really be worried. But I think you guys are going to be okay coasting the rest of the year.
Yeah, I don't see the Braves last year. If the Braves fans are like, if there's Braves fans out here listening to the Mets podcast for whatever reason, the idea that you're just going to be able to do that every year, just be complete crap for like half the year, and then like go out and sign 3 pieces, and then these guys live out an aberration. I mean, the dudes who are balling outside of themselves, that you can just do this year in and year out without a guy like Freddie Freeman. Olsen is clearly not Freddie Freeman. We're seeing that in his numbers, and then you look at the Phillies that literally loaded their lineup with just hitters, Didn't take anything else into account. She's like, that guy hits the ball hard. Let's go get that guy. Let's not worry about our coach. Let's not worry about our coaching staff. Let's just worry about our hitters. I mean, you got to feel great as a Mets fan. It really seems like you guys could probably gimp across this thing with 1 or 2 pitchers. And as long as you're ready to go and healthy for the playoffs, you'll be there.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of the way we're feeling, but we also always are waiting for the other shoe to drop, so that's why we get nervous. But
understandable.
No, I agree. We haven't even seen the Marlins yet. We haven't even played them.
They're supposed to be good.
Yeah, they've got a good young pitching staff, but besides that, I don't know how well they've been playing. But and Washington, we've seen a lot of, and they're just terrible. So, but making a point like you guys said about Pittsburgh, those are you got to beat those teams because that's especially in your division. You don't have like I hate to say it, a bottom feeder team right now, but the Mets do have the Nationals and even the Phillies because, as you said, they can hit, but their pitching is terrible, and that's why this was such a big homestand for the Mets, winning all 6 games. They swept both teams, and that's what you have to do because we used to do the same thing. We'd get a team and play a great team. We'd play in tough, and then somebody would come in that's got a less than 500 record, to Cincinnati or whatever, and they would just kind of sit back. But this is a different team this year. This is a different manager, different coaching staff, and Buck Showalter's really got these guys believing. And one of the things that they're doing that they didn't do in the past was make contact. They had bought into that whole analytical crap. I'm an old school guy. I'm an old guy. So
is Big Z.
I believe that you make contact. It used to bug me when I hear these guys say, well, the analytics say if you strike out, it's just another out. No. Because if you hit the ball, something can happen. If you strike out, nothing happens. The game freezes right there.
100%.
But if you make a ball, you hit a ball, something can happen. And the Mets have won 2 or 3 games this year by making contact. They were losing to St. Louis. I think it was I forget the score, 5-3 in the 9th. They had 2 outs. They hit a ground ball. Arenado booted it, threw it away. Run scored. They hit a single, tied it up, took the lead, won the game. They were down 9 runs to Philadelphia, and they scored, or 8 runs, and they scored 9 runs.
Crazy.
in the 9th inning, and took the lead. And it was the same thing. They made contact, and they bought into that this year, and it's really paying off. As far as I'm concerned,
you got to give yourself a chance. We say it all the time on our podcast. Get the bat off your shoulder. Give yourself a chance. If we roast anybody, we've talked about it multiple times. If we roast anybody, we'll defend. We have a different outlook than a lot of Dodger fans. Just being full disclosure, we'll talk about the fact that we will defend a player if he strikes out swinging. Right? If you're going down swinging, at least you're doing something. You know what I mean? If you're standing there, the bases are loaded. There's 2 outs and you go down looking, I mean, we're going to roast you. We're going to absolutely roast you. At least take a swing. At least give yourself a chance. If it's not close, 100% take the pitch. It's not close, no big deal. But if it's anywhere near it, just fight it off. Do what you got to do to stay at the plate.
Yeah. Without a doubt. Dodgers spent a lot of money in the offseason on Freddie Freeman. Little bit of a surprise. And I think most of the baseball world didn't think he was going to leave Atlanta, and he did and went to L.A. And it's paid off for them. And as you said before, I think Fredo said it about it's hurt the Braves, I think, more because they lost that leadership.
Absolutely.
And but Freddie Freeman brings a lot to the table. What has he brought to the Dodgers?
I think he brings we talked about it our last episode, but he's a quiet leader, and he's someone who just kind of puts his head down and he plays as hard as he can. But he still has is like a little kid too, kind of takes it with that approach as well. But he's very humble, and that's a type of personality that the Dodgers always look for, someone who's really humble, who's going to hold the rest of the clubhouse in check if someone isn't abiding by rules, as Fredo alluded to. We talked about Acuna last time. Acuna kind of called him out for getting mad at him for not tucking in his shirt, or something. So,
Right.
but that's the type of guy that Freddie Freeman is. He's a leader, and we don't really hear from him too much. We just see him play, and he's worth all that money because of that. He every single at bat, he gives a professional at bat. He takes the ball the other way. It doesn't matter if it's a lefty or a righty. He's gonna give you a professional at bat, a good professional approach, and that's what we love about him. To have him number 2 in our lineup, like it's scary. And the fact that the Braves didn't even offer him a contract is silly. And I mean, they deserve what they're getting now to lose that type of leadership in the clubhouse. Yeah, Matt Olson's a great player, but he's not anything the type of leader that Freddie Freeman is. And we can already see it rubbing off on, Gavin Lux, Chris Taylor, these guys at the bottom of our lineup. He really helps them. You see him taking guys aside and talking to them all the time. So he's just a great guy, great leader in the clubhouse. And that's the presence that we need to just really kind of get us over that hump.
100%. And to be clear, we didn't think we were going to get him either. Like a lot.
Yeah, we didn't.
Like all the way up to all the way up. We literally sat there on our podcast. We were saying, look, this race is Atlanta's to lose. He wanted to be a Brave. He made that no secret. Right. It's like we talked about. I know Izzy was equally incredulous. Izzy, tell him about that fan at the Diamondbacks.
Oh yeah. So I made a statement because it made national news for whatever reason. It's crazy that some small things like this will come up, but and I think John Boy Media has a big thing to do with that. But there was a heckler calling out Freddie saying, Freddie, you're a sellout. I used to like you. Why did you have to go to the Dodgers? And Freddie Freeman is one of the nicest guys. You see it every single time someone's on first base. He's always talking it up. He's thinking about the other player. He does things the right way. I don't think very many people can say something bad about Freddie Freeman. Even what Acuna said wasn't necessarily a bad thing. It was just kind of that he's a stickler. He likes to follow the rules. Right. Atlanta really had the opportunity to sign him, and they ultimately said, you know what, we're going to get Olson. Granted, Olson's a great first baseman. We've seen him when he plays for the Athletics. He's done good things. He's put up good numbers. Quietly, he's one of their better players, and he's a hometown kid, so I'm sure Atlanta likes him, but he can't replace Freddie Freeman. He was their cornerstone for a long time, and he's just put up numbers, and Zach said he's affected a lot of our players. Gavin Lux is one of my favorite players. I mean, there's a good article that I read a while ago that talked about how Gavin Lux has spent so much time with Freddie trying to become a better player, trying to hit like him, because Freddie Freeman uses all the fields. He does pull hitting, he does push hitting, he does contact. And on your point earlier, a lot of teams are doing contact this year because home runs just aren't coming the way they used to.
Exactly. And the fact that they got Olson, to be clear, that they got Olson before Freddie signed, like they made that move. That was all on the Braves. They signed Olson when Freddie Freeman was still a free agent. It wasn't like he said, I'm going to the Dodgers, and then they went and got Olson. They got Olson, and then he was like, I'm going to the Dodgers. Like, that was completely on them. We love him. He's an absolute leader. And the relationship, and we talked about this on our podcast as well, the relationship that he and Mookie Betts just quickly developed as hard workers. There's guys that just have a certain mentality. You're talking about like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. They just have that Mamba mentality, for lack of a better expression, that Mamba mentality. And it's clear, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, they're there to win, man. You come to work, you wear the right thing, you do the right thing, you do it the right way, and those guys are going to they're going to have your back. And that's clear. It's a mindset for this team. We love to see it, man.
Yeah, I agree. We hated him here because he killed us all the time, but I would have signed him in a heartbeat if we didn't have a first baseman already. And, but it's the same thing with Chipper Jones. Chipper Jones, people hated him. And I said, you know what, I'll take him on my team any day, because as much as you hate him, he always had respect for the Mets. He called his kid Shea, because he loved hitting in Shea, and he killed the Mets so much. But it's still something that he was. They're great ball players, and like you said, Olson is a good first baseman, maybe a great first baseman, but he's just. It's the intangibles that he's missing, I think, and that's what the Braves are missing this year. and hopefully they stay below 500 so the Mets can run away with it all, as far as I'm concerned. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our old friend, Justin Turner, who's still rolling along at third base for you guys. What kind of year is he having, and then how's he doing out there?
He's
Probably
had
not
a
as good as we
he's
want
had
him
a
to be.
slow start to the season, but he's been turning it around the last couple of weeks. He's brought his average up almost 30 points to around 230. So, which is still great for him, especially. But we love JT. We do think that he's another leader in the clubhouse. We kind of feel like he kind of lost his way at the beginning of the season. He wasn't his goofy self. He wasn't the guy who was, making the jokes in the clubhouse. You would see he's always a jokester. He's always having fun, and he kind of wasn't having that at the time. But in the last few weeks, he's really just kind of settled in, realized who he is, kind of realized what his role is now on the team, because he's kind of being switched back and forth between DH and third baseman. And that's not what he's been having to do ever, right? He's always been the starting third baseman. And so I think he's kind of realized that this is my role. I'm going to settle in now. And he's finding his identity in that. And I really think that that's helping him. And we just need him healthy in the playoffs, because he's our all-time leader in playoff RBIs. And we just need him here ready for that moment in time. But we love the guy. We're so glad that you guys let him go, because he really helped turn the Dodger franchise. He was one of those key players in turning us around into a contender year in and year out. So we thank you for him.
You're very welcome.
Yeah. I always kind of wonder what that's like for a Mets fan, to just watch this dude be one of the most clutch hitters, not just in Dodger history in the postseason, but like in baseball history, one of the most clutch postseason hitters. What is that like as a Mets fan, just to know that he just walked away?
Well, I look at it this way. He may not have done it here. And you never know. You go to another team, and sometimes some batting coach might notice something that you're doing, or you guys remember Michael Conforto, and who's a free agent, hasn't played anywhere this year. I love the guy. I saw him in the minor leagues in Brooklyn. There's a minor league team. It's now the high A team for the Mets, the Brooklyn Cyclones, and the guy would hit the ball all over the place. And he did it with the Mets, and then, he was starting to come into his own. And last year, he had a terrible year. And I said to somebody, and I said it on the show as well, to me, I think he's paralyzed by the analytics. They're giving him too much information.
Yeah.
And nobody's hitting. So it comes out at the end of the season. That was exactly what the problem was, that all of these guys, they were almost getting afraid to go up there and hit, because they had so much stuff going through their head that they couldn't hit the ball. Instead of seeing the ball, hit the ball. Long story short, they got rid of everybody. They brought in Eric Chavez now, and he believes in making contact and hit the ball, see the ball, hit the ball. And it's worked wonders. And I think Conforto, if he was healthy and if the Mets had re-signed him, he would be, tearing it up. But he's just an example of I think, guys that can have the wrong coach, or a wrong coach comes into your organization, or you go to a different organization and it turns you around. I don't think Justin Turner was a different player for the Dodgers than he was here. And it may have been because he was playing every day out there. Here he was a shortstop, second baseman, third baseman. They moved him around. The Dodgers pretty much stuck him at third base, because I think they had some, I forget the situation. They had some injuries or something, and he went out and did the job, and he's been a fixture there. So, it's hard to say. People say about going back to the 60s with Nolan Ryan, how did you get rid of him?
Oh, man, yeah.
He said himself, though, he would not have been the same pitcher here. He wasn't comfortable. He loved New York. He loved the fans and everything. It wasn't anything like that. He just wasn't comfortable in the city. And he was a farm boy, and, he went to a Texan. So he went to L.A. But Anaheim, was a little different than New York
It's
City.
not LA.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
not.
it's not
It's
LA.
not New York. It's not even LA.
Exactly.
It's a little smaller spotlight.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of spotlights, I just kind of want to ask you because this is one of my favorite players. Or I don't know favorite, but a player I really enjoy. I'm sure the boys can back me up. Francisco Lindor had a horrible season last year.
Yes.
But he's kind of coming up this year. How's he doing?
I tell you, I have a love-hate relationship with him. He started off very slow. He's been red hot lately. I think he had what did they say? 18 RBIs in the last 9 games or something. So he's been hitting the ball. Thank goodness he's been earning his salary, and he's been playing better. The reason I say I have a love-hate relationship because earlier in the year he was booting ground balls, and I said to somebody, how the heck did he win a Gold Glove? He doesn't look like a good shortstop. I mean, he was kicking balls, he was throwing balls in the dirt. It's like, they said he had a great arm. I said he can barely reach first base. And
that's Izzy's boy.
That is my boy. I like him a lot.
I'm sorry, Izzy.
No, it's okay. I just really admired him as a shortstop in what's called with the Indians, and so I was kind of shocked when you guys pulled off the trade for him.
Yeah,
and I just
I'd
like to see him succeed.
I think he's a guy that if he's hitting, he's okay. If he's struggling, he struggles all over the place because his game has improved dramatically the last few weeks. The month of May, he hit. His fielding is much better, and he's actually reaching first base now. So
there you go. That's key.
No, we told him you're not saying anything, Gary, that Izzy hasn't heard. Last year when the Mets traded for him, Big Z and I were like, this is a foolish move. He tried to compare him to Seager at some points. I didn't shut him down, but Big Z clearly did because Big Z, that's Big Z's boy.
Yeah, Seager's my boy.
Seager is Big Z's boy. But no, it's interesting. Some of your moves. I mean, we were talking about Frankie Lindor, and then you go out. You see how Frankie Lindor, a player like that kind of works out. He's struggling. It's up and down. And then you guys go out and spend $180 million on an aging Max Scherzer. I mean, how are you guys doing with all that? Those are some tough moves.
Scherzer is an interesting character, and see, it's a different dynamic here than he was with the Dodgers. He came in as a rental out there going into the playoffs.
Right.
Here he came in. He came in at spring training. This is what I said before about how this is a different dynamic here for this team this year. You see him in the dugout. He's talking to everybody. All the pitchers are talking. The young pitchers that they call it, like a Peterson, he's picking Scherzer's mind, and they're talking about what they're doing. And then they brought in Bassett, who's another guy like that. They're constantly talking, and I'm sure they're not making dinner plans. They're talking baseball. What would you do to get out in this situation? And there's a couple of young guys. Tyler McGill. This is his second year. He was a revelation last year. He came in when DeGrom got hurt, and he pitched fairly well. And this year he was pitching lights out, and he's got a little bursitis problem now, so he's on the shelf right now. But you see him talking to these guys, and you see DeGrom talking to a Scherzer. You see them watch him and how he works. And in spring training, younger guys in the minors, they see how he works. And apparently he's very good with the young guys. He talks to them. He talked to them in the minor leagues during spring training and everything. So it's a different dynamic here for us, and he's a competitor. I mean, you just watch him. Holy cow! We've never seen him because they didn't usually look in the dugout of the visiting team, but they go in, they show you the dugout. When the Mets are batting sometimes, and if he's pitching, he's pacing the dugout. He's like a caged animal. He wants to get back out there, and it's a good attitude, and the whole team sees that, and um, it's a good thing. It's a good dynamic. So there hasn't been a lot of criticism about him being, hurt. We just think, oh, sure, there's another Met hurt, you know, because we've had so many injuries over the last 4 or 5 years that for stupid reasons, and so here we go again, more injuries mounting up. But as you said, the other guys are picking up the slack, and that helps a lot.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I'm just curious because obviously, when you're talking about that big contract of his, and I mean, the biggest thing you guys got to do, I think Big Z would agree, is just be careful with that arm, right, Big Z? I mean, we saw that in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, just be careful with him. Don't overuse him. Don't bring him in a save situation, apparently, and make his arm dead. Because, I mean, reality is, he's a great leader, right? So you're alluding to that, and you're kind of seeing beyond the diamond in a way, like to really help your guys progress into the next part of their careers. But at the end of the day, he's making $40-something million a year, so he needs to be healthy for the playoffs, because that's your goal, right? World Series, and I know on paper your team is capable of winning a World Series. So that's what as Dodger fans, I would not be pleased if he was hurt, but I'm sure we would see beyond what you're seeing as well, trying to help those guys progress in their careers and making them better, and all that. That's very valuable, like kind of what Freddie Freeman has done for Gavin Lux in that regard as well, which is invaluable. That's great information. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so you can't buy that, and
right.
A lot of these guys got valuable information. They also got some valuable experience. Playing in a run last year. Even last year they were in first place a lot of the beginning of the year, and then crashed and burned in the second half. But a lot of that was injuries. But I think a lot of it also was the management. They had a first-time manager in his second year, and it just it's hard to explain that. The change, you could actually see the change in attitude almost. It just looks like everything is more professional. Even when you look in the dugout, you see Showalter taking notes and surveying everything, and making calls that sometimes you say, why is he challenging that? But there's but he did it, and there's a reason behind it, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it's just a whole different attitude around it. And you guys saw that probably when you changed managers the last time. And
definitely,
John Mattingly and Dave Roberts are two different
night and day.
Yeah,
for sure.
And so them being in first place, I guess he's got no worry about being replaced anytime soon.
I think Buck's also one of the more respected coaches in the league. I mean, he's earned that right being in the league so long, and I think your players are looking up to that, as opposed to who'd you have before Brody Van? He was just an agent that came in as GM trying to make these moves, and he's just a lot of different people coming in trying to plug and play. That doesn't always work. Sometimes you need someone who's done it before and can continue to do it. I mean, we had Dave Roberts as a first-time coach. We had no idea what he'd be like, and he turned out to be a gift, a godsend, almost.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it works, and it's just that the Mets, they went with Mickey Callaway, and we all know how that ended up. And then another young guy in their system, and it just didn't work out. I think they were too controlled by the general manager, and who's going to tell Buck Showalter what to do? Because
exactly.
I can go back to MLB Network. I don't need this. So
exactly.
It's just and the coaches are more experienced as well. And so it's just a total thing. But we'll see what happens. It's a long season, and we'll see what happens. But it's been exciting for us so far this year, and I'm assuming that you guys know that feeling for the last few years, how exciting it is. when you're actually winning games and
Oh
coming
yeah.
from
Yeah.
behind. But so it's a 4-game series this week. We got let me see. I wrote down the pitchers. It's gonna be Tejan Walker against Gonsolin, Bassett against Anderson, Peterson against Bueller, and TBD against Urias. So we're gonna get Bueller in there, and how are these other guys? How is Tyler Anderson?
He's the
Tyler
one you should be worried about.
Anderson. Yeah, he's a godsend. I think anyone around the league would want him as their 5th starter right now. He's playing way above any expectations that anyone had for him. He's just controlling the game from the get-go. He goes on the mound, he commands the mound, he controls the strike zone, he gets guys out, doesn't let anything phase him. And to get him for $8 million, I believe that's what the contract was. I mean, that's nothing for the Dodgers. So we're really excited about him. If he keeps this up, I mean, it's amazing for the length we need in our rotation going through the season. So out of those 4, watch out. He's going to be the one that gives you the toughest time. As of right now, he looks like he's on fire. So
dude, I don't know, man.
Well.
He's gonna get a pissed off Walker Bueller. I mean, Bueller just got lit up, dude. He's gonna be pissed. He's gonna be all sorts of pissed off. He's a dude who does not like to lose. The Pirates lit him up for 4. It's gonna be a good one, man.
It's gonna be a good series for sure.
It should be a good series, and I hope that I'm not going to be greedy. I'll take a split.
Well, this is the clash of Titans right now.
Yeah.
Preview of the NLCS is what it is.
I always figure, I don't know if you guys figure the same, but I figure if you go out to, when the Mets go out to the West Coast, they're going out for 10 games. If they come back, I'll take 6-4. I'll take 5-5 if I have to. But I just don't want one of those 2-8 ones, you know. I'll take a 500 record because it's tough. It's the travel and everything. I do miss the days when they used to go out and play the Dodgers, the Giants, and the Padres, and then come home. This back and forth and it's nuts. I don't think it does any good. I don't see where they save any time, but you know. Who knows? But we have gone quite long tonight, and I want to thank you guys so much. This has been so much fun, and I've enjoyed talking to you guys so much. So tell us a little bit more and where the people can find your show.
Yeah, so we are the Other Boys in Blue. We have a website, www.theotherboysinblue.com. On Instagram, on Facebook, we are the Other Boys in Blue. Twitter is the only place that changes it up because they limit the characters. So that one is just Other Boys in Blue. But anything to do with the Other Boys in Blue, we got merch, we got mugs, we got hats, all sorts of good stuff on our website, podcasts for days. We got some news up there. So really just search us, find us. We'd love to have you guys. We're pretty active on social media. If you liked what you heard, come give us a listen for sure.
All right. And thanks again, guys, Izzy, Fredo, and Big Zach. Thank you so much for coming on. And I will be back in just a second. 516-619-6341. That is the comment voicemail hotline if you'd like to be a part of the show. And drop us a line, leave us a comment or a voicemail, question, anything at all. Call that number, 516-619-6341. Or go to MetsMusings.com and click on that widget in the middle of the screen, and that's a speak pipe, and you can leave a voicemail right through your computer through your computer's microphone. Or if you prefer to do things the old-fashioned way, send us an email at metsmusings@gmail.com. The Facebook page is facebook.com/groups/MetsMusings. And if you'd like to help out the show, check out our Patreon page. Check out the campaign at patreon.com/MetsMusings. Okay, and we're back, and you know what time it is now. It's time for me to go hop in the truck because we're going. All right, we're going down on the farm, and as we record this on a Wednesday evening, uh, the farm games are going on. The farm teams are playing, and but going into tonight's game, Syracuse was 15 and 32, 15 games behind last place in their division. Binghamton was 17 and 28, 12 games behind and in last place in their division. Brooklyn creeping up. They are 20 and 23, 11 and a half games behind in their division and in third place. And St. Lucie still in first place, 30 and 16, and they have a 5-game lead. Who were some of the hot prospects this week? Well, some of the names you have heard before, but a new one jumps up there. Jake Mangum. He is on fire at Syracuse, a former Cyclone. And in his first 3 games for Syracuse, he went 8 for 12 at the plate, scoring 3 runs, hitting 3 doubles. On the season, he's hitting .318 with 20 home runs. 20 runs scored, 7 doubles, 4 triples, 1 home run, and 10 RBI. He's stolen 8 bases in 10 attempts. Mark Vientos continues his hot bat in Syracuse. He was really hot, white hot, in fact, in May. After struggling in April, third baseman slashed .328, 408, 642 with 6 home runs in the month of May. Francisco Alvarez has busted out of his long slump with 4 home runs in an 11 for 30 week. The young backstop is now slashing .269 with 8 home runs, and he had a 2-homer game last Thursday night, and with that he snapped a streak of 29 straight games. Binghamton Rumble Ponies placed third baseman Brett Batty on the 7-day injured list, retroactive to May 27th of this year. And Mike Vassell, one of the top pitching prospects in the Mets organization, who dominated this year in Low A, was quickly promoted to High A. Brooklyn. Did not have an easy time in his first start in the more advanced competition. He gave up 4 runs in 4 innings, but he still flashed some of that strong strikeout ability that has made him an exciting prospect. And he settled down and looked a little better in the late, as time went on. But we'll have to see as he gets more relaxed in the new environment and a tougher competition. And Junior Tillin became the first Met minor leaguer since Rene Rivera in 2019 to hit 3 home runs in a game this season. This past weekend he did that. He entered the game with 2 home runs and in the first 161 plate appearances of his young professional career. So his career home run total more than doubled over the course of the game. So congratulations to Junior Tillin. So, up and down the minors, there is some signs. Probably more from Binghamton down, the better players are right now, or the vast amount of future prospects. Vientos is in Syracuse, but Alvarez, Batty, and Maurizio are at Binghamton. And then Brooklyn has got Newton and now Vassell and a couple other of the top-ranked pitchers are in Brooklyn. Let's see, and Tillin and those guys at St. Lucie, who are just doing a remarkable job in the Florida State League. They're really holding their own, and Jake Mangum now, of course, is also at Syracuse, and we could see him up here pretty soon if he continues progressing and hitting the way he's hitting. So all good news. Do they still have to build up the farm system? Yes. Yes, the farm system isn't, it's not one of the tops. It's probably more middle of the road right now, the middle of the pack. But it is getting better, and there are, as I said, these little spots of talented players there. So that's what you have to look out for. And hopefully with some good drafting over the next few years, and who knows, maybe some of the guys that were drafted and signed and are in the lower prospects may turn out to be diamonds in the rough. You never know where somebody can come out of nowhere and become a star. So that's all stuff to look out for. But all positive. Even though, don't go by the records. I mean, it's hard. They move guys up and down, and they're trying to teach guys, and the whole idea is to develop players. And I know we all want them to win, and the best development is winning, of course, but it doesn't always work that way. So if the development's coming and the players come and they're ready to play on the major league level, that's what you want. When you call that guy up and you hope that you didn't rush him and he can perform, that's what you really want. And let's hope it continues along that way. All right, and that's going to wrap it up for this week's show. I hope you enjoyed it. Did a lot of talking this week, I know. I apologize, but I hope you enjoyed our guests. I want to thank the guys from the Other Boys in Blue, the Los Angeles Dodgers podcast, for coming on tonight and taking their time out of their busy schedule. Thank you guys. I want to thank you for listening. And if you're listening and or watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and the like button. The analytic people at YouTube like it, and I like it too. So it helps you know who's watching, and it helps you know when a new episode of MetsMusings come out. And if you're watching on, or you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Google Play or Spotify or whatever you choose to listen to your podcast on, if you're listening to the audio, please also consider subscribing there as well. So there too, you'll know whenever a new episode of the podcast comes out. So Mets hit the road again. Crazy schedule, but they're going back out to the West Coast. Tomorrow night, they'll play the Dodgers, 4 with the Dodgers, 3 with the Padres, and 3 with the Angels. 10 days they'll be out on the West Coast, so a lot of sleepless nights maybe for people, or you'll be getting the score the next day. But it's a tough road trip out west, but let's just remember to keep the faith and to stay optimistic. And let's go Mets. And I'll see you next time on another edition of Mets.